Have you ever wondered if the very snack you believe is keeping you healthy could actually be harming you? What if something as simple as the nuts you eat every day is quietly cutting years off your life? And most surprising of all, what if the danger doesn't come from the nuts themselves, but from how your aging body reacts to them after 60? As we grow older, our bodies no longer process certain foods the way they once did. What seemed perfectly harmless in your 40s might quietly put your health at risk in your 60s, 70s, or beyond. And one food group that has become surprisingly complicated is none other than nuts. Yes, nuts, the very food many of us were taught to see as super healthy. While some truly are good for you, recent medical findings reveal that a few carry hidden risks for older adults. The problem is, most people don't realize it until the damage has already started. Sometimes it's not the nut itself, but the way it's processed, the oils it's coated with, or the strain it puts on your system as your body changes with age. Without knowing, you could be eating something that slowly undermines your heart, your brain, or your overall vitality. In this video, we'll uncover 6 specific nuts and nut-based products that older adults should avoid, or at least approach with serious caution after the age of 60. You'll learn the hidden dangers behind each one, what's really happening inside your body, and how these choices may affect your long-term health. If you've ever thought, it's just a snack, what harm can it do? You may be shocked by the answer. This might completely change the way you look at that small handful of nuts on your plate. Let's dive right in with the first one, the salted cocktail mix. At first glance, it seems harmless. After all, who hasn't grabbed a handful from the jar labeled Party Favorite or Snack Blend? But for older adults, that salty mix of nuts could be quietly sabotaging your health every single day. The very first danger is sodium, and plenty of it. These salted nut blends often contain shockingly high amounts, sometimes well over 200 milligrams in just a single serving. But here's the real issue. When was the last time you actually stopped at only one serving? It's so easy to go back for a second, a third, even a fourth handful without realizing how much salt you're taking in. All that sodium, consumed regularly, puts enormous pressure on your cardiovascular system. And after 70, your arteries naturally lose elasticity, making it harder for your body to handle the overload. Your kidneys, too, become less efficient at filtering, which means excess sodium lingers in the body longer. Your blood pressure becomes more sensitive to even small increases of salt. While a younger person's body might recover quickly, yours might not bounce back so easily. That constant stress can slowly add up, straining both your heart and circulation in ways you may not notice until it's too late. And then there's the problem of oils. Most commercial nut blends are roasted in low-quality vegetable or seed oils like canola, soybean, or even cottonseed. These oils are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, and when exposed to high heat and air, they oxidize quickly. Oxidized fats don't just sit quietly in your system, they trigger inflammation throughout your body. For someone over 70, where inflammation is already more common due to aging, adding even more through your food can make a huge difference. It can mean persistent joint discomfort, higher risks to your heart, and even a weaker immune response that leaves you vulnerable. The tricky part is that these nut mixes carry a psychological illusion. Because they're nuts, people assume they must be healthy. But in reality, this so-called healthy snack can quietly work against you, especially as you age. Because nuts are often marketed as heart-healthy, many older adults don't even think of them as snacks. Instead, they see them as a smart food choice, something better than chips or cookies. That's why they tend to be eaten more often, sometimes even replacing full meals. But hidden behind that wholesome image is a product that has been heavily processed, salted, and packed with preservatives, all to extend shelf life and make them more addictive. And that's not the whole story. Many cocktail nut mixes also slip in glazed or sweetened varieties, and you wouldn't always know it just by glancing at the front of the label. These coated nuts are often covered in corn syrup solids, dextrose, and caramel coloring. ingredients your body struggles to process well in later years. The added sugars don't just make them taste better, they also spike blood glucose, encourage stubborn belly fat, and quietly fuel low-level inflammation. Over time, that kind of silent inflammation accelerates aging inside your cells and organs, creating damage you can't see until it shows up as serious health problems. Take Harold, for example, a retired bus driver from Ohio. He told me he used to go through an entire tub of those mixed nuts every single week. They're better than chips, he thought, so he never questioned it. But during a routine checkup, his doctor noticed his blood pressure creeping into the danger zone. The surprising culprit wasn't red meat, candy, or soda. It was those seemingly innocent nuts sitting in his living room cabinet. Once Harold cut them out and switched to small portions of raw almonds and walnuts instead, his health took a turn for the better. In just 6 weeks, his numbers returned to a safe range. That simple change made all the difference. So, if you've got one of those colorful tins sitting in your pantry, or worse, within arm's reach of your recliner, it might be the right time to toss them out before they quietly take a toll on your health. Your heart, your joints, and even your brain will thank you for avoiding those cocktail mixes. Now let's look at another common culprit, the sugar-coated candied nuts. They look festive, they smell irresistible, and that crunch feels so satisfying. But candied nuts are among the most deceptive snacks you could keep in your home, especially once you're past 70. Whether it's honey-roasted peanuts, cinnamon-glazed almonds, or caramelized pecans, these sugar-laden treats are doing far more harm than most people ever realize. It all begins with the sugar. Just a single handful of candied nuts can carry 10 to 15 grams of added sugar. For older adults, that's nearly half the recommended daily limit from just one small snack. But the real danger isn't only in the number, it's in the way sugar and fat interact inside your body. Nuts on their own can be healthy, but when you combine their fats with caramelized sugars, you create the perfect storm for arterial plaque buildup. That sweet, glossy coating doesn't stay innocent for long. The fats oxidize faster, and that's where the trouble begins. Oxidation leads to something called advanced glycation end products, often referred to as AGEs. These compounds accelerate the breakdown of tissues, stiffen blood vessels, and essentially speed up the body's aging process. That's the very last thing you want happening in your 70s or 80s, when maintaining flexibility and circulation is already more difficult. Then comes the insulin spike. Each time you eat candied nuts, your pancreas has to pump out extra insulin to manage the sugar rush. But as we age, our insulin sensitivity usually declines, making it harder for the body to handle those spikes. The more often this happens, the greater the likelihood of storing visceral fat deep around your belly and organs. This isn't just about appearance, it's a dangerous kind of fat linked to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even higher risks of certain cancers. What once felt like a harmless treat slowly turns into an accelerator of aging and illness. And there's another layer, an emotional one. Candied nuts are classic comfort food. When we're lonely, tired, or under stress, which often happens more frequently in later years, it's easy to reach for something sweet that reminds us of holidays, family gatherings, or festive traditions. That sense of nostalgia can be powerful. But unfortunately, the comfort is temporary, while the metabolic damage is long-lasting. The truth is that short-lived sweetness simply isn't worth the toll it takes on your health over time. I once met a woman named Patricia, 76, who always kept a bowl of cinnamon pecans right in the middle of her dining table. "They make me feel warm inside," she said, describing how comforting they were after meals or during the quiet hours of the afternoon. But when her A1C levels began creeping into the pre-diabetic range and her energy noticeably dropped, she started questioning how often her hand reached into that bowl. What she discovered was eye-opening. Every afternoon, she was essentially eating the equivalent of a sugary dessert without even realizing it. When Patricia made a simple change, replacing those candied pecans with a few unsweetened roasted walnuts and a soothing cup of herbal tea, everything began to shift. Over time, her cravings faded, and so did her blood sugar problems. It was proof that even small adjustments can make a powerful difference in how you feel each day. So what's the lesson here? Candied nuts may appear harmless, even wholesome, but after 70, they can be a dangerous trap. A daily handful can quietly fuel inflammation, spike your blood sugar, and accelerate cardiovascular decline, all while making you feel like you're rewarding yourself. The truth is, that reward is far too costly for the damage it brings to your long-term health. If you ever feel the urge for something sweet, there are safer, healthier ways to satisfy it. But these sugar bombs, dressed up as snacks, simply aren't worth the price your body pays. And if you're still here watching, that tells me you truly care about your health. Comment number 2 below so I know you've made it this far. And if you haven't yet subscribed, now is the perfect time. Click subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and join our community so you won't miss any future videos. Your support means a lot and helps us continue creating content designed to inform, inspire, and protect your health. Now, let's keep going. Next up is number 3, the overly salted party nuts. They often come in shiny tins around the holidays, sit in elegant crystal bowls at social gatherings, and look like a light, innocent snack. But beneath that festive presentation, these heavily salted cashews, peanuts, and almonds are carrying far more sodium than your body can safely handle. And then there's another hidden problem: artificial flavors. These additives don't do older bodies any favors. In fact, they can quietly undermine your heart, strain your kidneys, and even interfere with your brain. But the biggest issue begins with the salt itself. As we grow older, our kidneys naturally become less efficient at filtering sodium. That means the same amount of salt that passed unnoticed in your 40s can now cause sharp spikes in blood pressure, extra fluid retention, and added strain on your cardiovascular system. For many seniors who snack on salted nuts throughout the day, it feels harmless, just a handful here and there. But what they often don't realize is that they're consuming hundreds of milligrams of sodium without ever picking up a salt shaker. And that's exactly why high blood pressure is so dangerous. It's called the silent killer for a reason. There are no obvious early warning signs, only gradual, invisible damage building up in your arteries, your vision, and even your memory. If you're already dealing with hypertension, the risk multiplies. Salted nuts don't just add to the problem, they fan the flames. To make matters worse, some varieties are dusted with flavor enhancers like monosodium glutamate or other chemical preservatives. For sensitive individuals, these can trigger headaches, dizziness, or even digestive discomfort. The salty coating also plays tricks on your body's thirst mechanism. Instead of signaling dehydration, it can make you feel like you're fine when you're not, something especially dangerous during warmer months or if you're taking diuretics. That lightheaded feeling when you stand up too quickly or that foggy moment in the middle of the afternoon? It may not be age alone. Sometimes the culprit is hiding right there in your snack bowl. And there's one more trap: the portion size. Because nuts are small, crunchy, and so easy to grab, we often underestimate how much we're eating. A quick handful while watching TV, another while chatting on the phone, and before you know it, half the tin is gone. The problem doesn't feel big in the moment, but over time, that casual snacking adds up to real consequences for your health. And it's not just the salt, there's also the calories that sneak in with every handful. Over time, that quiet calorie load can lead to gradual weight gain. Carrying extra weight in your 70s or 80s doesn't simply strain your joints, it directly impacts your balance, your mobility, and even your day-to-day energy. The truth is, those few pounds make every step heavier and every movement more tiring. I once spoke with Dennis, an 81-year-old who had been struggling with persistent swelling in his ankles for months. His doctor tried adjusting his medications, checked his circulation, and even ran heart tests. But the mystery remained unsolved until his wife casually mentioned his snacking habit during a routine checkup. Dennis had been eating salted cashews almost every afternoon, not realizing they were throwing his sodium levels completely off balance. Once he made the switch, cutting back and replacing those salted cashews with plain roasted nuts sprinkled lightly with lemon zest, the difference was remarkable. Within days, the swelling started to subside, and soon after, he noticed a boost in energy that he hadn't felt in years. Sometimes the smallest change can restore a surprising amount of vitality. That's the lesson salted nuts leave us with. They might look like a better choice compared to chips or cookies, but after 70, your body simply doesn't process sodium the way it once did. That little bit of extra flavor, sprinkled on day after day, can quietly push your health in the wrong direction. So when you reach for a snack, make it something your heart, your kidneys, and your brain will thank you for, because whether you realize it or not, your body is always listening. Now let's move forward to number 4, the misleadingly healthy trail mix. For decades, trail mix has been marketed as a wholesome, energy-boosting snack. A cheerful mix of dried fruits, nuts, seeds, and sometimes a touch of chocolate. On the surface, it feels like the perfect balance of natural fuel. But once you're over 70, the reality is far more complicated. What seems like a healthful blend can actually be a hidden source of sugar spikes, calorie overload, and fats that do more harm than good to your aging body. Let's start with the dried fruit. While fresh fruit is undeniably healthy, the dried versions often tell a very different story. Once the water is removed, what's left behind is a tiny, chewy piece that's densely packed with fructose and, in many cases, dusted with even more sugar or treated with sulfites to preserve its bright color. The problem? Just a small handful of dried banana chips or sweetened cranberries can actually deliver more sugar than an entire slice of cake. And unlike that slice of cake, it doesn't leave you feeling full. Instead, it tempts you to keep reaching back into the bag for more. Now add that concentrated sugar to the fat content of the nuts in the mix. Many trail mixes don't just use raw nuts. They're honey roasted, oil roasted, or even chocolate covered. That turns what looks like a wholesome snack into a collection of tiny calorie bombs. You may think you're making a smart choice, but with every bite, you're flooding your body with more energy than it likely needs, especially if your lifestyle is no longer as physically active as it once was. The result? Insulin spikes, rising blood sugar levels, and a slow but steady accumulation of fat around the waistline. And it's not just cosmetic. That particular kind of fat, deep visceral fat around your belly and organs, dramatically increases the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and even cognitive decline in seniors. For someone in their 70s or 80s, that's a price far too high for something that seems so innocent. There's also the psychological trap. Because trail mix looks natural and often comes in packaging with words like organic, energizing, or heart healthy, we tend to drop our guard. It feels safe, so we don't think twice. But that's exactly what makes it so easy to overeat. Clara, a 72-year-old I know, used to snack on trail mix every afternoon while working on crossword puzzles. One day, out of curiosity, she decided to weigh how much she had eaten in a single sitting. The number shocked her, nearly 600 calories worth of trail mix, gone in less than an hour. And the surprising part? She didn't even feel full, just vaguely satisfied. And she was repeating the same routine day after day without realizing the impact. Another hidden danger with trail mix is the salty-sweet combination. Many commercial blends are designed to hit both flavor notes at once. The salt enhances the sugar, and the sugar softens the salt. Together, they create that addictive contrast that keeps your hand going back into the bag again and again. This pairing lights up the pleasure centers in your brain, tricking you into wanting more, no matter your age. Even in your 70s or 80s, your brain still responds to this combination just like it does with fast food. It's a quiet form of addiction, cleverly disguised in a resealable pouch. So, what's the solution? If you truly enjoy trail mix, the safest choice is to make your own at home. Start with unsalted raw nuts as the foundation. Add just a modest handful of unsweetened dried fruit. Tart cherries, plain raisins, or even a few unsweetened apple pieces. Toss in nutrient-rich seeds like pumpkin or sunflower for variety and crunch. Most importantly, Keep the portion small and remind yourself that it's a treat, not a meal. Because as we age, what once felt like a harmless little nibble can gradually turn into a hidden health tripwire. Trail mix is one of those foods that seems like it's working for you. Natural, energizing, convenient. But in reality, it may be quietly working against you without your knowledge. That's why awareness is so important. If you're still watching and finding these insights useful, comment number 4 below so I know you've stayed with me this far. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do it now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join our community so you won't miss future videos designed to keep you informed, inspired, and healthier every day. Your support helps us continue creating content that makes a difference. Now, let's move on to number 5. The deceptively crunchy corn nut. For many people, corn nuts bring back nostalgic memories of road trips, ball games, or quick convenience store snacks. But if you're over 70, that familiar crunch may come at a cost far greater than you realize. At first glance, corn nuts don't seem all that bad. After all, they're made from corn, and corn is a vegetable, right? But here's what most people overlook. These golden kernels are nothing like the steamed corn on the cob you enjoy at a summer cookout. Instead, they're deep-fried, heavily salted, and so dry that you practically need a glass of water just to swallow them. The manufacturing process involves soaking oversized corn kernels and then frying them until they become rock hard. That crispy, almost stone-like texture isn't natural. It's the result of oil saturation and extreme dehydration. And while it may create that satisfying crunch, it also makes corn nuts tough on the body. For older adults, this can be a real problem. Weak or sensitive teeth, receding gums, or dental work like crowns and dentures all make chewing these kernels risky. One bite too hard could mean a cracked tooth or sore jaw. And once they reach your stomach, they don't get much kinder. Their hardness and heavy processing make them difficult to digest, often leaving older adults with bloating, discomfort, or even constipation. In short, they're both a dental hazard and a digestive burden rolled into one. But the crunch hides an even bigger issue: sodium. Most store-bought corn nuts are loaded with it, sometimes well over 200 milligrams in just a small handful. That number may not sound alarming on its own, but for seniors already monitoring blood pressure or trying to protect kidney function, even these small extra doses of sodium can add up quickly. And because the crunch is so addictive, it's easy to keep going until half the bag is gone without realizing how much you've consumed. Then there's the oil. Many brands fry their corn nuts in refined vegetable oils like soybean or canola. When exposed to high heat during deep frying, these oils oxidize and produce harmful compounds. Those compounds are linked to increased inflammation in the body. For someone over 70, when inflammation is already higher due to aging, adding more fuel to the fire can affect joints, circulation, and even immune response. What seems like a nostalgic road trip snack can quietly undermine your long-term health with every handful. Corn nuts are something aging adults should be especially cautious with, particularly those dealing with arthritis, heart conditions, or even early cognitive concerns. And if you're thinking about your digestive health, which naturally becomes more delicate with age, here's something to consider. That super dry crunch isn't just tough on your teeth, it also demands extra work from your digestive system. Without enough water or fiber to help it along, your gut is left struggling. The result can be constipation, uncomfortable bloating, and that heavy, sluggish feeling in your stomach that lingers for hours after a snack you barely even enjoyed. Does that sound like a fair trade-off for a few moments of crunch? Probably not. Fortunately, there are better alternatives if you love the idea of a crispy snack. Lightly roasted chickpeas or air-popped popcorn with just a touch of seasoning can give you the crunch you crave. They're gentler on your teeth, provide fiber, are easier to digest, and won't quietly attack your arteries in the process. The real key isn't giving up snacking altogether. It's learning to outsmart the snacks that only pretend to be harmless. Corn nuts may whisper fun and nostalgia, but behind the scenes, they're working against your health in ways that add up over time. And for those of us in our 70s and beyond, That's a trade-off we simply cannot afford to ignore. Now let's move on to number 6, the sugar-coated candy nut trap. These treats are festive, they smell irresistible, and they show up everywhere. In gift tins, at holiday markets, even at fairgrounds across the country. But after 70, sugar-coated nuts like pralines, candied pecans, and honey-roasted peanuts come with a dangerous hidden cost. It's a sweet little trap that doesn't just expand your waistline, it quietly takes a toll on your circulation, your brain, and your heart. What makes these nuts dangerous isn't the nut itself, it's the sticky, glossy coating layered on top. Those shiny shells are usually made from a blend of refined sugar, corn syrup, sometimes butter or oil, and often just a pinch of salt to intensify the sweetness. That combination delivers a quick jolt of energy by spiking your blood sugar. But what follows is the crash, a wave of fatigue, renewed hunger, and low-level inflammation quietly spreading through your system. For older adults, the stakes are even higher. If you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, as so many are in their later years, even a single handful can disrupt your glucose levels for hours. But here's where it gets even more concerning. Sugar doesn't just affect your blood sugar, it actually stiffens your blood vessels. Research shows that diets high in added sugars accelerate the aging of your arteries, make blood pressure harder to control, and reduce the natural elasticity that your heart depends on to keep blood flowing smoothly. Imagine your circulatory system as a set of flexible tubes. Sugar gradually turns them rigid. And the problem grows worse when these sugary coatings are paired with unhealthy oils during roasting. Many mass-produced candied nuts are fried or glazed with refined vegetable oils that oxidize under high heat. When you mix oxidized fats with excess sugar, the result is compounded damage, higher LDL cholesterol, more arterial inflammation, and an even greater burden on your heart. But it's not just your physical health at risk. High-sugar snacks like these are increasingly being linked to cognitive decline in older adults. A 2023 study conducted in the United States found that people over 65 who consumed the highest amounts of added sugars experienced significantly faster memory loss compared to those who kept their sugar intake low. Why? Because sugar doesn't only inflame the body, it inflames the brain as well. And when that sugar is combined with preservatives, flavorings, and additives commonly found in commercial candied nuts, the damage to brain health may accelerate even further. And the challenge with candied nuts isn't only about health, it's also about habit. The sweetness sets off a cycle that makes it hard to stop. One handful feels harmless, but the mix of salt, crunch, and sugar hijacks your satiety signals. Before you even realize it, the little bowl on the coffee table is empty, and your blood sugar has been thrown off balance for the rest of the evening. What felt like a small indulgence quickly becomes a quiet disruptor to your body's rhythm. If you want to enjoy nuts without the risks, the best choice is simple. Stick with raw or dry roasted options, free from sugar, syrups, and artificial coatings. A small handful of plain almonds, walnuts, or pistachios provides healthy fats, supports your heart, and delivers steady energy without the crash. These are the kinds of snacks that fuel your body rather than draining it. The older we get, the more important it becomes to treat every bite with intention, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Candied nuts may look harmless or feel like a seasonal treat, but in reality, they carry a hidden cost, one that often isn't noticed until it's too late. Choosing differently isn't about deprivation. It's about protecting your vitality and preserving your energy for the moments that truly matter. And if you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, comment number 6 below so I know you've stayed with me through this part of the journey. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and stay connected so you won't miss the upcoming videos created to inform, guide, and inspire your health journey. Your support allows us to continue sharing this content with you. Now, let's step into the final thoughts. Growing older gives us something youth never could: clarity. With age, we begin to see that living well isn't always about adding more. Sometimes it's about removing the quiet things that drain us, the habits and foods that take more than they give. The truth is, most of the nuts we've talked about today aren't harmful because of a single bite. What makes them dangerous is the blind spots they create. We trust the health halo around them. We assume that small automatically means safe. We believe that a label with the word natural must also mean harmless, but the reality is different. If we're not careful, these small, quiet missteps add up day after day, and over time, they shape the quality of our later years in ways we might not notice until it's too late. So, what's the real takeaway here? It isn't fear, it's awareness. Every bite we take in our 70s, 80s, and beyond is either helping us or quietly hurting us. The more informed we are, the more power we have to make choices that protect our hearts, strengthen our bodies, and keep our minds sharp. And isn't that what we all want? To age with energy, independence, and clarity? Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these nuts surprised you the most? And what change are you ready to make starting today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Even one small shift can create a ripple effect in your health. We'd love to hear your experiences and insights. Leave a comment and share one thing you learned today, along with how you plan to apply it in your daily life. Your thoughts mean a lot to us, and reading your comments gives us motivation and encouragement to keep creating more content for you. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit. Your support truly helps us continue creating valuable content designed to inform, inspire, and guide you toward a healthier, happier life. Thank you so much for watching. Wishing you good health, happiness, and peace always. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss what's coming next.